All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ransom Reviews. We're going to look at the Bucks-Celtics series. We're going to look at games 1 and 2. No video today. I left my webcam at work, so we're just going to do audio only. Let's start with the bad news. We'll look at game 1 before we get into the Grant Williams celebration podcast, as I'd like to title this today. So game 1, you know what? Let's go even before game 1. I just want to address anybody who thought that this was going to be an easy series for either team. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but really I should probably spend even less. But there's so many people talking about a sweep for the Celtics, a sweep for the Bucks in 5, Celtics in 5. If you're one of these people, I hate to tell you, but you're an idiot. You're an idiot if you thought that this series was going to be easy for either team. I had the Celtics in 7. I still have the Celtics in 7 after 2 games. I knew it was going to be a tough series because, I'm a rational thinking person. The Celtics and the Bucks had identical records in the regular season. If you look at some of the metrics, the Celtics probably had the advantage. They had a better plus minus. They had the top ranked defense in the NBA. And obviously that momentum that they built over the last couple of the months of the season, they were a better team than the Bucks for the last couple of months. That being said, the Bucks have the best player in the world, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they're also defending champions. So I think all of that basically equals a wash. It really is a series where you could pick either team and make your case. Now, I took the Celtics in 7. Obviously, mainly because I'm a Celtics fan and I want the Celtics to win, but I also believed that they could win. I believed we had enough bodies to slow Giannis down, and I just figured Middleton not being there was enough to give us the edge in this series. Now, obviously, in Game 1, the Bucks, I don't know how else to put this, they humiliated the Celtics. They absolutely manhandled. It was like if you have a sibling, an older sibling, like if you're like a 10-year-old boy and you have like a 15-year-old brother and you pick a fight with him and that 15-year-old brother just manhandles you, just holds your head underwater, just dangles you over a railing by your legs, just holds you at bay with one arm while you're flailing your arms trying to hit him. That's basically what game 1 was. The Bucks destroyed the Celtics and didn't just beat them. It wasn't like, if you look at the final score, let's pull that up here. Final score for game 1 was 101 to 89. You look at that and you're like, oh, yeah, it was pretty close. Not too bad. Like if the Celtics would have made a couple more shots, they would have been in that game. Let me tell you, that score line is so disingenuous. The Bucks just destroyed us, and it wasn't close. It was never close. It was a really disturbing loss because the Bucks showed a blueprint for how they're going to play this series against us that really, I don't want to say that I panicked because, again, I never wavered from having the Celtics in 7, but I did go into this second game feeling like it was a must-win, that if the Celtics lost this second game, the series was going to be over. And that was because I just felt like this Bucks team is just too solid, too good to lose the first 2 games in the series, lose home court advantage, and then have to win 4 out of 5 against the Bucks when they have home court advantage. I just couldn't see that happening. But what the Bucks did in that first game is partly what they've been doing all year. Their defensive identity is built around protecting the rim and forcing teams to take 3-pointers and beat them with 3-pointers. Now, that's a really good matchup for the Bucks in this series because the Celtics are not a great three-point shooting team. I could imagine if like the NBA Finals were the Bucks versus the Warriors, that Coach Bud might want to make some adjustments because if they tried to play the Warriors like they are playing every other team and playing us and forcing them to shoot threes, I bet the Warriors would absolutely smoke the Bucks. But we don't have those kind of shooters, and it showed in Game 1. I think we tied the NBA record for least amount of two-point made baskets. I think we made 10 two-point field goals in that first game, and everything else came from the three-point line, and it wasn't pretty. And again, just to go back to the physicality, they just beat the living snot out of us, you know? They kicked Robert Williams in the dick. He almost threw up on the court. Marcus Smart shoulder fell out of socket, had to go back to the locker room, came back, got kneed in the legs a bunch of times and could hardly walk. He was compromised throughout the entire game and had to miss Game 2 due to a thigh contusion. And Jaylen, of course, with his hamstring issue, obviously he played through it in Game 1, not very effectively. It was arguably the worst game of Jaylen Brown's career. He was terrible. I mean, one of the worst games I've seen anybody play ever. Not just shooting, where he was obviously bad, 4 for 13, but 9 of those 13 shots were from 3. He had 1 putback dunk, and then he just didn't attack the rim for the rest of the game. It was shocking. And he had 7 turnovers and 4 assists. So when you have double as many turnovers as assists, look, I love Jaylen Brown, and we're going to talk about how awesome Jaylen Brown was in Game 2 in a second here, but there's no denying that Jaylen Brown cannot dribble. He is just a terrible ball handler. His handle is so loose. Every time he dribbles a ball, you're just holding your breath, hoping he doesn't dribble it off his foot or off the other defender's foot or just lose it when he's doing a crossover. So basically everything that could have gone wrong in Game 1 went wrong. Tatum couldn't get to the rim. Marcus Smart just got beat up. He got outplayed. He's the Defensive Player of the Year, and he got outplayed defensively by Drew Holiday. Brook Lopez looked like Dikembe Mutombo. He just looked like he was 11 feet tall, and it was shocking how incredible the Bucks defense looked in that first game, holding us to 89 points. It literally felt like we could not get an easy basket in the entire game. Now, that actually continued a little bit into Game 2, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, obviously Game 1 was a disaster. The Bucks looked like their blueprint, their defensive identity was just really tailor-made for slowing down this team, making things really difficult for us. And again, just watching our team get beat up, watching Jaylen Brown clutch at his hamstring, watching Marcus Smart limping around and unable to play effectively, it was such a reversal of what we thought going into the series, where we felt like the Celtics were the healthy team, and it was the Bucks that were going to be worried about their health because they were missing Middleton. So that brings us to Game 2, which again I felt like was a must-win, and I also felt like we could win for sure, and we did. And I wouldn't say that it was the same style of victory. Like, the Bucks beat the crap out of us in that first game, and we smashed the Bucks in Game 2, but I don't think it was in a physical sense. Their players weren't all exiting the floor with injuries, but we just had an incredible first half of basketball, firstly. And we'll start with Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen Brown was the driving force of that early lead, of just establishing the energy, rebounding, that everything he did in the first half was incredible. And I don't want to put a negative spin on this, but I am very, very concerned with his hamstring injury, because there's no question that it's going to be an issue throughout this series and the playoffs. So if you were aware of what was going on in this game, Jaylen Brown apparently was the first player out on the floor practicing before this game started. I think he was out there 3 hours before the game started. So there's no question that his mentality was, I got to get warmed up. I got to get really warmed up. I got to loosen up nice and slowly and just get my body where I can trust it to start this game. And then once I get that warmness, that looseness in my muscles, I need to just play as much as I can. So we got that beautiful first quarter Jaylen here. I think he had like 17 points in the first quarter, maybe even more. He had 25 points in the first half, and he essentially played almost the entire first half. Now, that was incredible. He was hitting all of his shots. He was super aggressive. It was beautiful to see. You can't see it, but I'm wearing my Jaylen Brown jersey today. I had complete faith that he was going to have a bounce back game today, and he did. But there is still a negative side to this where in the second half, Jaylen only had 5 points and grabbed at his hamstring several times. And again, this is where I talk about this is going to be a reoccurring issue. These hamstring injuries don't just go away. I mean, you remember this is the hamstring that was bothering him earlier in the season, and he came back too soon, and then he had to sit down again before he eventually came back and was healthy-ish. I mean, I don't know how healthy he was because now the same hamstring is bothering him again. But obviously sitting down at halftime and getting cold and then having to come out in the second half, that was it. That was pretty much it for Jaylen. Like, he didn't trust his body after that, and it was obvious with how he played. So luckily we didn't need him to have a giant second half like he did in the first. He gave us such a tremendous boost of confidence and a cushion with the score that we were able to ride it out without him having a big second half. But again, this is just something that as a Celtics fan you're going to have to monitor throughout this entire series. And if we make it through this series, throughout the entire playoffs, is just Jaylen Brown's health, how comfortable he's feeling with his body. And it's nerve-wracking. It's really nerve-wracking. But luckily, he was able to play through it really effectively in the first half and give us a lot of juice that we needed to carry through this game. The Bucks' defensive identity didn't shift in this game. They still had the same mentality of we're going to protect the paint at all costs. We're going to give you 3-pointers. Obviously, the difference in Game 2, where the Celtics won 109-86. This game was, honestly, it was never really close. We pretty much had the lead straight away and throughout the entire, I'm pretty sure the Celtics led wire to wire. I think the smallest the lead was when the game actually started to matter. I think it got down to 12 at one point, and that's as close as the Bucks ever got. Obviously, the major difference, besides Jaylen Brown's amazing performance, was that the Celtics, who are given all of these 3-pointers, made their 3-pointers in this game. We shot 46.5% from 3 in this game. We made more threes in this game than the Bucks took threes. That's right. We made 23 pointers out of 43 attempts, and the Bucks made 3 3-pointers out of 18. They shot 16% from 3, which is insane. So I'm sure that there's some dumb fans out there that are like, oh, the Celtics aren't going to shoot 46% every game, and the Bucks aren't going to only make 3, so the Bucks will win, which is just nonsense. Like, yeah, of course the Bucks aren't going to shoot 16% from 3 throughout this series, and the Celtics aren't going to shoot. It's an isolated game. But the reality is that the Celtics are the best defense in the NBA. And now, even with Giannis, the best player in the world on the other side, we've held the Bucks to 101 points and 86 points in their first 2 games. Okay? So you can talk about fluky shooting all you want. The reality is the Celtics are just a really good defense, and they're going to limit scoring chances for the Bucks, especially when they don't have Middleton, who, let's be honest, Middleton is terrifying to Boston Celtics fans. I mean, he has crushed the Celtics at points, and he's a big-time shot maker. And while Grayson Allen made some of those shots in the first game, he didn't in the second game, and that's why he's Grayson Allen. He's not dependable. He's not Middleton. And obviously the Bucks were missing a solid shooter in this game. Now, I am a little bit worried about a couple of things. I'm a little bit worried about a couple of things. Obviously, the first game was a disaster in the sense of just not being able to get any easy baskets, no transition baskets, nothing easy around the rim, no paint points. And to be honest, this game wasn't much better. It was slightly better. We had a few transition points. We had a couple of points in the paint, but we're still getting dominated in the paint, and we're still taking way too many shots from three. So, roughly half of our shots in this game came from three. And I don't love that percentage. And I'm still not quite sure how the Celtics are going to fix that, because again, the Bucks defense is designed to allow 3-point shots. And so it's really hard to not take them, and you don't even necessarily want them not taking them. If you see Grant Williams open for three, you want him shooting that. And let's go there next. Because I love Grant Williams. My God, do I love Grant Williams. I can't even wrap my head around how much I love Grant Williams. I am just so shocked. I know I've said this multiple times, and I'll keep saying it. I'm just so shocked at the way that his game has developed. He, okay, you can start with the obvious that he's the best 3-point shooter on this team. There's nobody on this team that you feel more comfortable shooting threes, open threes, than Grant Williams. And yeah, I think he made 6 or 7 3-pointers in this game as well. 6 for 9 from 3-point range. 21 points, 5 boards, 2 assists for Grant Williams. He was a team-leading plus 22. But don't look too much into that stat, because Derek White was also a plus 22, and he's one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen. So the eye test, if you watch these games, tells you that not only is Grant Williams an incredible 3-point shooter, but his defense is just blowing my mind. I'm not going to go so far as to call Grant Williams like a Giannis stopper. There is no stopping Giannis. And that's another thing I wanted to call out. All of these terrible clickbait articles on the internet. Shame on you, hackneyed journalists who write these stupid articles about, can the Celtics stop Giannis? How do the Celtics stop Giannis? Newsflash, there is no stopping Giannis. You don't stop Giannis. It's not happening. So it's just a stupid article to write about stopping Giannis. We're not going to stop Giannis. Giannis is going to get his, and the Celtics are either going to win or lose, regardless of that. That being said, my God, does Grant Williams play incredible defense on Giannis. I mean, there was one play. Giannis reminds me so much of Shaquille O'Neal. He really is like a slightly smaller Shaq. And if you just took Shaq and put him out in the perimeter and said, now Euro step to the lane, instead of just living underneath the rim, we need you to drive to the rim and literally just run over every single person on the way like a bowling ball. And that's what Giannis does. He just runs through people. I think that they could call him for an offensive foul on almost every single possession, but that's, I don't even want to get into the terrible officiating. But there was one play where Giannis tried to do that, typical Giannis bowling ball, drives the rim, bodies flying everywhere, and he ran into Grant Williams, and he bounced off of Grant Williams. Grant Williams stood his ground, and Giannis went flying backwards, and I swear my head exploded. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Giannis, really struggles with the physicality of Grant Williams. I think he's by far the best defender that we have to put on Giannis. I want to see him on Giannis on every single possession, if possible. When Rob Williams guarded Giannis, you could literally just see Giannis, blow on Rob Williams, and Rob Williams would fly through the air like a balloon losing its air. So just so much love and appreciation for Grant Williams. One of the most improved players in basketball this year. No offense to Ja Morant, who won that award, which I think is stupid because he went from being a great player to a really great player. But Grant Williams, I was ready to send Grant Williams to China in the offseason. Last year, he was borderline unplayable at times. Every time he shot the ball, he got blocked. He couldn't move his feet quick enough to stay in front of anybody. He was a liability. And this year, it's he's one of the best defenders I've ever seen. He's like Draymond Light. You can't get past him. And he's so strong. And I'm not saying this just based on one game. This is not a one-game sample size. Go back to the Nets series, and yeah, Tatum was incredible guarding Durant. But you know who else was incredible guarding Durant? Grant Williams. Can't even believe I'm saying this. 7-foot-tall Kevin Durant struggled to get his shot off against 5'10" Grant Williams. He's not that short, but my God, man, I've never seen a player milk more out of like a limited physical profile. Maybe like Charles Barkley. You'd have to go back to like somebody like Charles to see someone who's just doesn't really have the physical tools and just overcomes them. It's remarkable. I'm just so here for Grant Williams. I wanted to just give a lot of love to him. His three-point shooting is so crucial to this team who doesn't have, we don't have a lot of other guys that we can trust shooting the ball. And again, the defense that he has is so valuable. But this goes back to my whole point about stopping Giannis. It's such a stupid opinion. Like, the Celtics kind of have stopped Giannis these first two games. And in game one, he had 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists and 2 blocks. 9 for 25, though. That's stopping Giannis. He had a triple-double. And then this game, he was like 2 for 11 in the first half. We stopped Giannis. Well, guess what? He finished 10 for 20 and had 29 points. So you don't stop Giannis. It's just oh, excuse me. I was reading Tatum's stat line, but Giannis isn't much different. He finished 11 for 27 with 28 points. So not 29, but 28 points. And obviously, again, his field goal percentage is low. That's pretty much the best you can hope for. Make him take tough shots, contest his shots. He turned the ball over 6 times. Make him turn the ball over. But you're not going to stop Giannis. He's too good. So, incredible win from the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown in the first half carried this team. Grant Williams, with his incredible defense, made so many big plays. Al Horford is just incredibly solid. He's been just such a reliable player for the Celtics in this entire season and throughout the playoffs as well. And Tatum, as I said, Tatum ended up with 29 points, but he's having to work incredibly hard to get his baskets. Tatum is a guy who normally you see score points effortlessly, and there hasn't been anything for him that's been effortless in these first two games. And so that's concerning. He still found a way to get a couple of three-pointers late, huge three-pointers. But man, like if Tatum wasn't shooting his threes well, he would have had a really, really, really tough game here. Another thing I wanted to praise Jaylen Brown for, only 2 turnovers in this game after having 7 in the game before, which is amazing. I don't want to toot my horn too much, but let's go back to this Facebook post I had from last night before I went to sleep. I said, going to sleep tonight thinking about what the Celtics need to do to win Game 2. Defense was fine. The Bucks scored 101 points, so I'm not worried about the defense. Offense, however, was a disaster. That's where we need to be better. Jaylen needs to attack the rim and have less than 6 turnovers. Tatum needs to work his mid-range. Pritchard needs to keep shooting and knock down a few. Derek White needs to... We all need to pray for Derek White. Thoughts and prayers. If Marcus plays, he's going to be compromised. That means major minutes for White and Pritchard. White needs to D-up Drew, and Pritchard needs to be a lead ball handler as he's got the best handles by a significant margin on the entire team. It's a must-win. If the Celtics lose, this series is over. So pretty much everything I said there came to fruition. Our offense was better. I wasn't worried about the defense, and our defense was great. Again, Jaylen did attack the rim more in this game, in the first half at least. He still needs to attack the rim even more than he did in this game. He needed to have less than 6 turnovers. He had 2. Tatum did make some of his mid-range. Pritchard kept shooting, and he made a couple. Derek White, I guess you guys didn't pray for him because he was god-awful. And again, I said I knew that Pritchard and White were going to get major minutes because Marcus was compromised. Well, Marcus didn't play at all in Game 2. He missed the game, which is terrifying because that means that Derek White is going to play. And I'm just going to say this now. I know I've kind of trashed on Derek White before, but I really don't like him as a player. I don't get it. I don't understand why anyone thinks he's a good player. The only things that he can do is run and pass. He can run and he can pass. I think his defense is wildly overrated. I think his shot is one of the worst shots I've ever seen. Like, makes me feel like I'm watching Sean Marion. It's just, I don't trust him at all. And I really, really hope and pray that this 3-day layoff before Game 3, Marcus Smart can get himself physically right enough to play, because I don't want to see Derek White on the court at all. Like, I would play Peyton Pritchard over Derek White every single day, all day, every day, because, as I said, I trust Pritchard as a ball handler. I think he has the best handles on the team. He doesn't turn the ball over when he dribbles. He's the guy you want bringing the ball up the court, across half court. Every time they have Jaylen bringing the ball over half court, I just cringe and worry that he's going to lose the ball. Even Marcus got his pocket picked by Drew in Game 1. Tatum is loose with the ball at times. Pritchard's the only guy that I truly trust to dribble that ball up the court, which is kind of terrifying, to be honest. Now, he's not a great passer. He's, below average, frankly. But just let him get the ball above half court, and then he can get the ball into Jaylen or Jason's hands around the three-point line, and they can initiate the offense. But I just think that have that ball in Pritchard's hands. Let him bring the ball across half court. And also, I trust Pritchard when he shoots. Now, he hasn't shot the ball great this series, but when he's open, I want him shooting, and I trust him shooting. Whereas when Derek White is open, he either takes the shot and bonks it, or he doesn't take the shot and basically destroys the reason that people pass on the ball in the first place. Usually it's because the defense has collapsed, and he's left open in the corner, and he just wastes the opportunity because he doesn't have the confidence to shoot. And I don't know what he's supposed to do there, because I don't even want him shooting anyways. So I don't know what to do with Derek White. I just, I don't trust him at all. He makes me he's the only guy on this whole team that's playing in these playoffs that I just don't want out there, and that I don't trust to be out there. And like I said, just pray for Marcus Smart to recover from that leg bruise and be ready to go on Saturday, Sunday, so that we don't have to see much Derek White. And don't be shocked at all if Pritchard ends up getting more minutes and Derek White ends up getting less minutes. In Game 1, Pritchard had 11 minutes and Derek White had 16. In Game 2, Derek White had 28 and Pritchard had 24. Don't be surprised if those minutes start to flip, because I don't think that Udoka trusts Derek White either. Derek White was 0 for 6 in this game, by the way. And yeah, he had 5 assists. But like I said, he can pass the ball a little. That's nice. But we started Derek White and Robert Williams in this game. And that's like, you basically have 2 non-shooters out of your starting 5. That's really tough, man. Like, it's going to be really hard to spread the floor and create lanes to drive to the hoop when the Bucks don't have to ever guard or respect 2 of your starting 5. It's not a good look. So I'm all day, every day Pritchard over Derek White. But yeah, love Grant Williams. So excited to watch him play. Can't believe it. Super happy that Jaylen had and unsurprised that Jaylen had a bounce back game, but obviously still super worried about his hamstring issues. We'll see what happens. We've split the first 2 games. I'm not worried at all about being able to win in Milwaukee. The Celtics were one of the best road teams in NBA history for the last couple of months of this season. So, being in Milwaukee is not the issue, I don't think. Sure, it's going to be a slight advantage to Milwaukee to have the home court for the next 2 games, but we're going to have to find ways to win that don't have to do with just being on the road. It's going to be these same things I talked about. can you find a way to get some transition baskets, some easy hoops? Can you find a way to get to the free throw line? Can you find a way to get some points in the paint? Threes, the open threes are going to be there, but, that whole ridiculous, overused cliche phrase, you live and die by the three, we don't want to live and die by the three in this series. I really think that's the worst case scenario if we just keep shooting threes in all of these games and hope that they go in. So we're going to have to find ways to score around the basket, and it does make me a bit nervous because the Bucks have done a tremendous job so far defending that. That being said, the Celtics defense is also borderline impenetrable at times, and the Bucks are in a similar situation of nervousness where they know that Giannis is going to get his and that Giannis can spray the ball around the court and find open shooters, but they're kind of like, I'm sure they're wondering who's going to knock down these shots. They're having the opposite issue. They're not having a problem scoring in the paint, but they're having a real hard time knocking down shots. Even in game 1 where they won, I think they shot 35% from 3. Obviously this game they were atrocious. But without Middleton, they're really not a good three-point shooting team. They need him, and they're not going to have him in this series. So, Drew Holiday was 1 for 6 from 3 in this game, and that's bad, but it's not necessarily an aberration. Holiday's not a great three-point shooter. Connaughton was 1 for 2. Grayson Allen was 0 for 1. He only took 4 shots in 28 minutes. So I'm sure that the Bucks are going to look at that. Bobby Portis was 0 for 2. Brook Lopez took 2 shots in the entire game. So I'm sure the Bucks are going to look at that and know that those guys can play better. But I would be a little bit nervous if I were them as well about just who's going to knock down shots other than Giannis. Other than Giannis and Holiday. They need other players to step up, and I don't necessarily trust any of their other players. So again, this just goes back to what I said before. I think that you could really make a case for either team in this series. I still have Celtics in 7. I still think we can win in 7, but we need a couple of things to go our way. We need to find a way to score around the basket. We need to just hope and pray that Jaylen's hamstring holds up, that he's able to, fight through these games and that it doesn't get significantly worse. We need to hope and pray that Marcus Smart comes back ASAP so that we don't have to rely on Derek White, who's clearly unreliable. And if those things break our way, then it's going to be a very good and competitive series, and let's hope the Celtics can pull it out. That's all I got for today. Just wanted to cover the first 2 games and a little bit about this whole series and what I expect and what I expected. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Who did you have winning this series? Please don't tell me you had the Celtics sweeping the Bucks. And what do you think are some of the biggest issues that the Celtics are going to have to overcome to win this series? Or if you're a Bucks fan, I'd like to hear your perspective as well, what you think the Bucks can do to beat this Celtics team. And that's it for now. I'll see you next time.